Hare Krishna. I offer my humble pranams to all the devotees at ISKCON, New Jersey. Last year also we were here discussing how to build Vaishnava relationships, if I remember. And this time, again, I was lovingly asked by the devotees here, headed by His Grace Devakinandan Prabhu, who is like my dear father, who is showering so much of affection and love upon me and encouraging me in various ways, and many other senior devotees sitting here. With your blessings, I would like to speak a few words on this topic of tolerance in reversals, based on Shrimat Bhagavatam, Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita and Bhagavad Gita. These three books have everything. Of course, there are many other wonderful Vaishnava literatures, but I will primarily speak on Gita, Bhagavatam and CC. Tolerance is one of the first lessons given by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna began his teachings to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita from the 11th shloka of the second chapter. First chapter is just Arjuna's confusions. Second chapter, first 10 shlokas primarily talk about Arjuna making a decision to surrender to Krishna, to seek guidance of Krishna when he was overwhelmed with confusion, when he was indecisive. We should know what to do when we don't know what to do. Arjuna did not know what to do in such a situation where he was in a dilemma. Initially he said, I will not fight. Later he said, I think I have to fight now. My duty. Later he said, how can I fight with my own relatives? My own guru, my own grandfather, they are worshipable to me. Oh, I am confused. Especially in the sixth shloka of second chapter, his confused mindset is very clearly revealed. Should I fight or not fight? Yet they are standing in front of me. He was like quite confused. Then he said, Karpanya doshopahata svabhava pruchhami tvam dharma sammudha chetaha yaha shreyasya nischitam bruhitan me sishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. Krishna, you acted as my driver. I told you, take my chariot between the two armies. You did it like a driver. But actually you are my friend, you are my cousin. Earlier you acted as my messenger. So in this way you acted in various capacities in your relationship with me. Now I am requesting you to take another role. What is that role? Become my teacher. You are my guru. I am your sishya. Sishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. Accept me as your disciple. He said that. Then Krishna began his teachings from the 11th shloka. He said that why are you lamenting for something which is not worthy of your grief? Ashvochyanan vasochastvam prajnavadamscha bhashase gatasun agatasumscha nanu shochanti panditaha. Of course, this place is a place of Gita recitation. Yesterday I saw so many little children reciting Bhagavad Gita shlokas from the 12th chapter. Very amazing. You know all the shlokas, but I'll just meditate on a few shlokas. So, he said, don't lament for something that's not worthy of your grief. Don't lament for the body, because body is never alive. And don't lament for the soul, because the soul is ever alive. Okay? So, wise souls don't lament for either living or dead. They don't lament for the soul or for the body. No need to lament for the soul, it's always eternal. No need to lament for the body, anyways it's going to die. So don't lament. Soul is eternal, body is temporary. Then Arjuna had a question that Yeah, I understand soul is eternal, body is temporary. What I am going to kill in this battlefield of Kurukshetra is only the bodies of Bhishma, Drona, etc., not their souls. They will go to higher planets, but I am connecting with these personalities through the bodies only, isn't it? So body is important. We will have affection for the body also, because body is a medium through which we connect with the person. I cannot directly interact with the soul, Atma. I need a body as a medium. Therefore, I am lamenting. Then Krishna said, I understand. This is a good point. I understand. Your connection with another Atma is through the body in this material world. But you need to tolerate that. That's where Krishna gave his most profound teaching of tolerance, the art of tolerance. Matra sparshastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkhadaha agamapayino nityaha tamsti tikshasva bharata. Please understand, O Arjuna, matra sparshastu kaunteya sita ushna sukha dukkhada. When our senses come in touch with sense objects, we have these perceptions of heat and cold. We have to tolerate it. We have to tolerate this sound. Matra sparshastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkhada. Agama apayino anityaha. This heat and cold, or summer and winter seasons, they come and they go. Anitya, they are temporary. Just as heat and cold, we have to tolerate on a physical level, we need to tolerate happiness and distress on the mental level also. In another shloka, Krishna says, Sitoshna sukha dukkheshu tatha manapamanayoho. Sita and Ushna, heat and cold on the physical level. Sukha and dukkha, happiness and distress on the mental level. Then man and apman, honor and dishonor on the egoistic level. We must exhibit tolerance at all three levels. Physical level, mental level, and egoistic level. In all levels, this world is a world of dualities. It will present so many such pairs of opposite qualities. Even in the second chapter, only the later shlokas, Krishna says, where he is about to give the teachings of Nishkama Karma, Krishna said very emphatically that victory or defeat, success or failure, you should see all of them on an equal plane and chant. You please, if you remember the shloka, you can tell me. 2.38. Sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labhau jaya jayo tatho yuddhaya yujyasva naivam papam avapsyasi. Sukha dukkhe same kritva. Happiness will come sometimes, distress will come sometimes. You just be equipoised. Labha alabha, gain and loss, be equipoised. Jaya ajaya, victory and defeat, be equipoised. So tolerance and equanimity are some of the prominent teachings of Bhagavad Gita in various chapters. Now we discussed a little bit about tolerance. We need to tolerate happiness and distress on the mental plane, honor and dishonor on the egoistic plane, heat and cold on the physical plane. But beyond tolerance is another quality, which is equanimity. Right in the next shloka, 15th shloka, Krishna says, Yam hina vyathayantyete purusham purusharshabha samadukha sukham dhiram somrutatvaya kalpate. Samadukha sukham dhiram. A dhira, a sober person, is one who maintains equanimity towards sukha and dukkha, happiness and distress. Earlier Krishna said, tolerate happiness and distress. When you are just tolerating, you are still perceiving its difference. This is happiness and that is distress. And I have to tolerate. When there is a happy moment, I may rejoice, but I should not become so elated, overexcited, confident, overconfident, proud, arrogant. No, let me not become like that. Happiness is there. Happiness you can just experience, but don't become proud. Distress. Yeah, I should deal with the distress. I should address it as far as it is humanly possible. But I should not become so demotivated, discouraged, disappointed, devastated, depressed. No need. So tolerate. So when you are tolerating, you still perceive the difference between happiness and distress. But Krishna says, you transcend that level of tolerance and come to the stage of equanimity. In the 14th shloka, Krishna emphasized on tolerance, tolerating happiness and distress. In the 15th shloka, Krishna spoke about equanimity. Sama dukkha sukham dhiram, whether it is happiness or distress, both are same. And the level of tolerance, you are seeing the temporary nature or transient nature of happiness and distress. But on the level of equanimity, whether they're transient or whatever, I'm indifferent to them. Their existence has no impact on my mind or body. I have nothing to do with them. That's what Krishna says. Equanimity. Samadukha sukham dhiram somurtatvaya kalpate. What is this? Let's understand with an example. When a child is requesting for a toy, Jai Shri Radha Shyam Sundar Bhagavan ki Jai. A child desires a toy. The toy is in red color, green color, yellow color. So multiple colors of toys are there. The child specifically desires for, say, a red color toy. And green color toy doesn't give any happiness to the child. Only red color toy gives happiness to the child. So, for a child, red is giving happiness and green is giving distress. Just assume like that. But for a father or a mother, is there any difference between this red and black, red and green? Nothing, no difference. You take whatever you want. How much I have to pay, you tell me. $100? Okay, fine. So, the father is concerned more about the payment there, not the color of the toy there. You see? Because child is more like innocent, not evolved in one's either consciousness or intelligence or experience. So they are caught up in this duality. Red or green or yellow or blue or whatever. And they perceive the difference between all of them. This gives me happiness, this gives me distress, this is more attractive. My friend has the same color, I should take a different color. Better color. My friend has the same color, this color, I will take the same color. So like that they have their own calculations. But the parents, it doesn't matter at all. Similarly, a materialistic person may have to differentiate between happiness and distress and get excited with happiness and exhausted with distress. But for a spiritually evolved person, that happiness or distress on a material plane is of no relevance. No relevance. They're experiencing spiritual bliss. In compared to spiritual bliss, this material happiness is nothing. And material distress is also nothing. Whether it is happiness or distress, it's of no relevance to us. That's what a spiritualist thinks. That's what a evolved, experienced devotee thinks. When you're traveling on the road, when there is a green signal, you may have to stop. Or you can go ahead. When there is a red signal, you have to stop. But when you're traveling in an airplane, whether it is red signal or green signal, it's of no relevance to us. Similarly, when we elevate our consciousness to a spiritual plane, where we are experiencing the joy of Krishna consciousness, experiencing the love of Krishna, we transcend the petty pleasures of this material world or trivial distresses of this material world. They are of no relevance. Just like someone who is traveling in airplane, for such a person, red signal and green signal on the road are of no relevance. That's why Krishna said, Sama dukkha sukham dhiram so amrutatvaya kalpate. Amrutatva means a stage of liberation. No mriti, no death. You are transcending the cycle of birth and death. That is amrutatva. So birth and death exist on a material plane. They don't exist on a spiritual plane. Right? So when you transcend this material, martya loka. You come to amritatva, there material happiness or material distress will not affect us. So this kind of equanimity is yoga. Krishna says, samatvam yoga uchyate. What is yoga? Yoga means connection with Krishna. When you are connected with Krishna, you have this quality of samatva. Samatvam yoga uchyate. You will be equipoised. There is equanimity. So someone who is in connection with Krishna is equal in happiness and distress. No excitement in happiness, no exhaustion in distress. They will deal with it on a practical plane as much as humanly plausible, but they are connected with Krishna. Chittam naiva nivartate kshanamapi Sri Krishna padambujan nindantu priya bandhava gurujana grihnantu munchantu va durvadam parighoshayantu manuja vamshe kalankostu va tadrik prema dharanuraga madhuna mattayamanam tume chittam naiva nivartate kshanamapi. My consciousness will not get deviated from thinking about Krishna even for one kshana, one moment. Chittam naiva nivartate kshanamapi Sri Krishna padambujan. Always thinking of Krishna's lotus feet. That's what devotee does. Nindantu priya bandhava gurujana. Let my own relatives criticize me. Nindantu priya bandhava gurujana. Let my superiors also criticize me. Doesn't matter. Grihnantu munchantu va. Let them accept me or reject me. What difference does it make? Kya farak padta hai? It doesn't make any difference. Durvadam parighoshayantu manuja vamshe kalankostu va. Let people spread gossip about me that this guy has gone crazy. He's chanting Hare Krishna. He's running behind Krishna. He left everything. People may think that this person is crazy. Let them gossip about me. What difference does it make? And some people say, you are bringing a bad name to our dynasty by getting into this line. Nobody in our dynasty has taken to Krishna consciousness. How can you take? People may say like that. Tadrik prema dharanuraga madhuna mattayamanam tume. But a devotee who is Krishna conscious constantly experiences the love and affection of Krishna. As long as he is affectionate towards me, even I don't get affection from the materialistic people, doesn't matter. Right? So one becomes equipoised towards gossip, ninda, criticism and praise. Somebody is praising us. Are you are this, you are that, you are great. They're clapping. Fine. Somebody is ridiculing us, criticizing us. Doesn't matter. It's okay. This material world is meant for that only. Bhagavatam says very emphatically, Nindanastava satkara nyakkarartham kalevaram. Ninda means criticism. Stava means praise. Satkara means honor. Nyakkara means neglect, dishonor, indifference. Nindanastava satkara nyakkarartham kalevaram. This material body, this material world is meant for experiencing criticism and praise and honor and dishonor. So experiencing dualities is a very common thing in this material world. One who has entered this material body is supposed to experience all dualities. Let me do the needful. Let me finish this off. It's like a ritual for me. As long as I'm here, I have to experience heat and cold, happiness and distress and all kinds of dualities. But let me not get overwhelmed by it. Devotees also face reversals, but they don't get overwhelmed by it. Because they're in connection with Krishna. Tadrik prema dharanuraga madhuna mattayamanam tume. Prema. They're experiencing prema of Krishna. Therefore, even if reversals come, they don't mind. Okay, we spoke a little bit about tolerance and significance of tolerance based on Gita. But let's enter Bhagavatam now. Gita doesn't speak stories. Gita only speaks principles, concepts. But all the concepts of Bhagavad Gita are very wonderfully demonstrated through the stories of Shrimat Bhagavatam. We spoke about tolerance and equanimity. Let's see who all are the devotees who exhibited this tolerance and equanimity in their lives. All this are there within the pages of Shrimat Bhagavatam, first canto of Bhagavatam. First canto, first 3 chapters talk about the 6 questions by the sages and answers by Sutta Goswami. No stories there. Then we have 4, 5, 6, next chunk. In these 3 chapters, there is a beautiful conversation between Narada Muni and Vyasdev. You know the context. Vyasdev has written so many scriptures, but he was very dissatisfied. Then Narada Muni came and said, you are not satisfied, you are very despondent despite writing so many scriptures because you have not sufficiently glorified the process of Bhakti Yoga. You have overemphasized on 4 Purusharthas. Write Shrimat Bhagavatam in such a way that it satisfies the hankerings of very elevated spiritualists and it also mitigates the struggles and suffering of common people. And to inspire Vyasadeva, Narada Muni spoke his own past story. Once upon a time, there was a great Gandharva. His name is Upabarhana. He was very handsome, very playful, enjoying life with all the other Gandharva ladies, singing, dancing. Once some great Prajapatis organized a Sankirtan festival, some worship of the Supreme Lord. And they invited Upabarhana also, he's a prominent Gandharva. He went there and started singing some materialistic songs which are totally irrelevant for that occasion. Then all the Prajapatis became very upset with him. They cursed him. May you become a Shudra in the earthly planet. May you fall down from this Gandharva Loka. So he became the son of a maid servant on this earthly planet. 5-year-old child at that time. And during the monsoon season, some Bhakti Vedanta sages came to their locality. And this boy, Gandharva Upabarhana, who fell down as a Sudra child, his mother was working in a Gurukul, in a school. And this boy also was accompanying his mother in doing different things. When this Bhaktivedanta sages came there during the monsoon season, they wanted to spend time in that school and do their spiritual practices and do some sadhana and do some chanting and discussion of scriptures for 4 months because it's raining, they don't want to travel. So this boy's mother, the maid servant, she got an opportunity to serve the Bhaktivedantas. Mother is doing some service, then the boy also did some service. The boy was getting some flowers and fruits and then clearing their prasadam plates. When they are discussing Harikatha, he would sit there and then he will hear the stories of Krishna with rapt attention. So eventually, by the association of these great souls, by eating their Mahaprasadam, by hearing Harikatha from them, by doing some service to them, to the best of his ability as a 5-year-old child, how much service he can do, but he's doing. So this boy came from Shraddha stage to Prema stage. He became so advanced in bhakti. And after 4 months of monsoon, these sages have initiated this boy into bhakti yoga and they left. And this boy started practicing bhakti yoga in the absence of the sages. One day, one evening, the boy's mother went to milk a cow and she was bitten by a snake and she died on the spot. Reversal. And this boy, 5-year-old child, he was left alone. No protector. Just imagine, from a material perspective, from an external perspective, how painful it is. This boy does not have any relatives or other family members. No caretaker. The only caretaker of this boy is this mother. And she died. So what will this 5-year-old boy do? Prabhupada writes, and even directly Narada Muni says, Bhaktanam Shamabhipsataha. My dear Lord, Vishnu or Krishna, He is bhaktanam sham abhipsataha. He is a person who desires great auspiciousness for all his devotees. Bhaktanam sham abhipsataha. If the Lord is desiring auspiciousness for his devotees, why did the Lord take away the only protector of this child, his mother? Why did he allow her to die? Too much, isn't it? Why should the mother die? He's a small child, little child. Is this creating auspiciousness? We doubt the statements of Bhagavatam there. To clarify those statements, Prabhupada, it's a small purport, but very impactful purport. You can read first canto, 6th chapter, I think 6th shloka or 9th shloka, 6, 7, 8, 9 in that series. This is the way of dragging a sincere soul towards the lotus feet of Krishna. What is the way of dragging a sincere soul to the lotus feet of Krishna? Killing the mother? Is that the way? Unfortunately or fortunately, that's the way. How is this? How is this justice? Is this not a reversal? How are we supposed to tolerate this? Those people who are hearing this story cannot tolerate. What to speak of who is participating in the story? And it's not an imaginary story, it's an actual story, a real story. So once who hears, just imagine this story is made as a movie. Some scenes the director creates where the mother is the only protector of the child. She has all hopes on her child only, her son only, and the child is completely dependent on the mother. Several scenes with that, and they serve Bhakti Vedanta. Just imagine you are watching a movie, and somewhere towards the interval, intermission, mother dies with a snake bite. A tragic song. So whenever there is some tragic song, a tragic situation in a movie, the hero or the main character goes into the temple and blames the Lord. How can you do this to me? That there the camera turns like this. Till now it's horizontal. So the angle goes here and there. And all the bells in the temple start moving like this. At that moment only there is thunder, there is rain. Right? He starts blaming the Lord. And the Lord's deity in the temple is shown in different angles, different directions. And he's indifferent. He's looking there, he's smiling. How can you smile? The hero is blaming. And all the audience are crying. Right? Can there be more tragic situation than this? But Prabhupada says, Suta Goswami says, Bhaktanam shamabhipsataha. The Lord always desires auspiciousness for all his devotees. And Prabhupada says, this is the way of dragging a sincere soul towards the lotus feet of Krishna. How to digest this? Answer is simple. This lady, this maid servant, she rendered service to the Bhaktivedanta sages for 4 months in monsoon season, isn't it? And then she died. Not before that, after that. As a small child, this boy did so much service to the Bhaktivedantas and he received so many blessings. He became so elevated and advanced in bhakti. He came to prema stage. If for the little service he has done, he became so elevated, for the more service that she has done, how much more elevated she could be, she can be. So after she dies, where will she go? She definitely would receive another opportunity to continue her bhakti in a different situation, isn't it? Or she must have gone to the spiritual world also. Who knows? All that is not mentioned, but we can safely understand, we can confidently understand that the Lord will never do injustice to anyone at any point. So the Lord thought, this little boy, this maid servant, she is just working in different places. If she continues her life like this, most of her energy will go in bodily maintenance only. Let me give her another chance in a different situation to continue her bhakti. And what about this boy? This boy got the association of Bhaktivedanta sages and he became so advanced in bhakti. He came up to prema stage he can definitely grow in his bhakti. So this boy, without getting affected or overwhelmed at all, he just traveled towards the north and to different jungles, and then he sat under a tree, and then he started meditating on the Lord, and he could see the darshan of the Lord within his heart, and eventually he became Narada Muni. You see, that son of maidservant became Narada Muni, the transcendental spaceman who can go to any planet, anywhere in the entire material world, even in the spiritual world. He can go to Vaikuntha, he can come to Hiranyakashipu's kingdom. He can go to Ravana and meet him, and he can go to Ayodhya and meet Ram. He can do anything. That is Narada Muni. He became so elevated. So, is this injustice? Sometimes, when there is a reversal in the life of a devotee, we get so overwhelmed and caught up by the nitty-gritties and the details of the problem only, and we cannot see a bigger picture. Right? So, the Lord always has a bigger picture. From there, if he sees, he is picking up somebody from here and keeping him somewhere else, isn't it? He picked up that maidservant, kept her somewhere else so that she can continue her bhakti. He picked up this little boy and made him Narada Muni so that he not only continues his bhakti, he can enlighten 1,000 other people in bhakti, million other people in bhakti. So is it not creating auspiciousness for his devotees? But when we are too overwhelmed and caught up in that distressful situation, in that reversal, we can't see the bigger picture of the Lord, greater vision of the Lord. Immature devotees, they conveniently doubt Krishna's intentions and integrity when there is reversal in life. But mature devotees, they never doubt Krishna's intentions or integrity at any moment. Bhaktanam shamabhipsataha. Whatever the Lord does to me, He is my genuine well-wisher. Nobody can be my well-wisher as much as the Lord can be. Suhridam sarva bhutanam. Parents can protect the child. How long? Doctor can protect a patient. How long? A ship can protect a passenger. How long? Ship also can collapse. Ship also can drown. I am not saying this. Prahlad Maharaj said this. Balasya neha sharanau pitarau nrisimha anartasya chagadamudanvati majyato nauhu taptasya tatprativedhir yayihanjaseshtaha tavad vibho tanubhritam tvadupekshitanam. Balasya neha sharanau pitarau nrisimha. Pitarau, parents are not the real shelter for the children. Even in the presence of affectionate, rich, accomplished, popular parents, kids may be in trouble. Kids may be undergoing some tremendous amount of distress. Parents, with all their affection and empathy and sympathy and influence, they won't be able to address the problems of the kids many times. Right? Nartasya chagadamudanvati majyato nauhu. All the patient has access to all kinds of medicines and the best doctors. Still, many deaths happen right in the hospital only. Sometimes patients won't be able to afford the cost of treatment. They may die. That's one case. But some people are very wealthy. They can pay as much as the doctor wants. Whatever may be the expense of the medicine, they will be able to bear, but still they die. Once the tenure of a soul within a body is finished, no doctor can protect the patient, no medicine can protect the patient. So, Prahlad Maharaj is praying to Narasimhadev, "O Lord, you are the only protector. No one else can protect." So, when we have that faith in the Lord, then even when we encounter so many reversals, we don't complain. We don't blame the Lord. Even when there are hundreds and thousands of reversals in the life of a devotee will never doubt the integrity of Krishna. Krishna is my well-wisher. To purify me of my anarthas, to give a token punishment for my aparadhas and suffering, the Lord has given me this punishment. He is so merciful. In fact, I deserve more punishment. The Lord has minimized it. That's what a devotee thinks. Devotee never blames the Lord. Tatenu kampam susamikshmano bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam hridvagva purbhir vidadhan namaste jivetayo muktipade sadaya bhak. Tatenu kampam su samikshamano. When we carefully analyze our own heart, our own activities, we'll understand that I'm experiencing this distress only because of my own past misdeeds. And the Lord has sanctioned it. So, Lord is the cause of this suffering, and I am the cause of suffering. Because of my own misdeeds, the Lord is allowing me. Lord is sanctioning the suffering for me. Let me accept this. That will purify me. When somebody does a mistake, if the person who has done a mistake experiences that suffering for that mistake, he will be purified. If that person tries to escape, he will not only escape punishment, he will escape purification also. Because he escaped punishment and purification, he will tend to do the same mistake again. Then he will be entangled more and more in sin. And he will have to experience greater amount of suffering in hell. Is it required? Better let them experience some suffering in this life only, get rid of this suffering, and then go to Goloka, go to Vaikuntha. At least get another human life instead of entering hell. So that's why the Lord allows His devotees also to suffer. So we don't practice devotional service to be relieved from suffering. Yes, that may be one stage. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Arto jignasur artharthi gnani cha bharatarshapha chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritino Arjuna. So one of the categories of devotees who come to Krishna are Artha Bhaktas. They come in distress. They are not necessarily pure devotees. They are great. They are wonderful. After all, they came to Krishna. When there is distress, they did not take a bottle. Whenever there is some distress, people who are in Tamogun will take a bottle. They will take a cigarette. Right? That's how they try to eliminate the distresses in life. To forget distresses, I am drinking this. Fine. But devotees, they don't take bottle, they take bead bag. They take shelter of Krishna. They don't take bottle, they take Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam is the solution to problems. Holy name is the solution to problems. They understand this. So they take shelter of Krishna. So when reversals come, devotees don't get overwhelmed by the reversals, but they take that as an opportunity to intensify their dependence on Krishna. We discussed some story from the first canto, 6th chapter. Let's go to the later chapter, 7th chapter, 8th chapter. Ashwathama released a Brahmastra to kill the little child who is still within the womb of Mother Uttara. Uttara came running to Krishna, saying that, Krishna, pahi pahi maha yogin deva deva jagatpate, na anyam tvada bhayam pashyet yatra mrityuho parasparam. Oh Krishna, I don't see anybody who can give me shelter except you. Recently, just few days back, Uttara lost her husband, Abhimanyu. Morning in Tobacco we were discussing about Abhimanyu. So she lost her husband. Krishna did not protect her husband. Krishna allowed Abhimanyu's death to happen. Uttara was not holding any grudge. What's happening, Krishna? Why did you not protect my husband? What mistake did he do? He's such a noble soul. He's the son of your dear devotee Arjun. He's the descendant of the Pandavas. Is it not your responsibility to protect Abhimanyu? And I'm so young. He's in a teenage. I'm pregnant also. My father, my child will be born and he will not be able to see the father. Krishna, what's happening? Why are you doing this to me? Uttara never complained. Uttara again went to Krishna and said, Pahi pahi maha yogin, pahi pahi, protect me, Krishna. Deva deva jagatpate, you are the God of all gods. You are Jagatpati, Lord of the universe. If he is the Lord of the universe, why did he not protect Abhimanyu? If he is Deva Deva, God of all gods, why can't he save Abhimanyu? Na anyam tada bhayam pashyet. I can't see anyone who can give me abhayam. Abhayam means fearlessness. The Lord gives fearlessness. Yatra mrityuho parasparam, when you are right in front of death, only Lord can protect you, isn't it? She's convinced about it. Although she lost her husband a few days back. See the conviction levels. See the confidence levels. Even if Krishna had not protected Parikshit Maharaj, Uttara will be in the same consciousness. Krishna, you are the only protector. She did not think, he did not protect my husband, will he protect my son? Let me not go to him, let me find some other god. She did not say that. She said, Deva Deva Jagatpate, you are the God of all gods. If you don't protect, then it's okay, no problem. That's your decision, I accept it. But if you prefer to protect, please protect. I'm praying. Let the Brahmastra that's coming kill me, not my child. She exhibited her motherly affection, but she left the decision in Krishna's hands only. Whatever you want, you do. But Krishna this time did not neglect. He entered the womb of Mother Uttara. Therefore he is called Uttarayan. He entered the womb of Mother Uttara and protected Parikshit Maharaj by counteracting the heat of Brahmastra. This is Krishna and this is devotee. Devotees don't lose their faith in Krishna just because they experienced some reversals. In fact, during these reversals, the devotees' faith levels will increase. And we will be able to witness how faithful these devotees are. Generally, devotees are faithful, but in a situation of calamity, their prayerful attitude will increase, their dependence on Krishna will increase, and we will all understand how much faith they have. Calamities test our faith. When there is a materially comfortable situation, there is not much test for the faith. Krishna is my protector. See, he gave me so much prosperity. It's easy to say that. All Krishna's mercy, all Krishna's mercy. But somebody slaps, you are facing some reversal. Will you say, all Krishna's mercy, all Krishna's mercy? Very difficult to say that. But devotees say that. Devotees are very advanced in their consciousness that they can effortlessly accept all reversals as Krishna's grace. Right in the beginning of Shrimat Bhagavatam, the shloka comes, Dharma projita kaita votra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam Shrimat Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Parairishvaraha Sadyo Hridi Avarudhyatetra Kritibhi Susrushibhistakshanat. Jai Shri Shri Radha Shyam Sundar Bhagavan ki Jai. Tapatraya Unmulanam. One of the glories of Shrimat Bhagavatam is Bhagavatam will destroy all tapatrayas. All the threefold material miseries are completely eliminated, eradicated, vanquished by Shrimat Bhagavatam. Tapatraya Unmulanam. If you take shelter of Shrimat Bhagavatam, all material miseries are gone. That does not mean they don't exist. Bhagavatam will literally not solve your health problems or financial problems. Bhagavatam will give us the inner strength to deal with those problems in a mature manner without getting overwhelmed. And in fact, to see those miseries as mercy of Krishna. When misery is seen as mercy, where is misery there? That's what Bhagavatam does to us. Tapatraya Unmulanam. So Uttara did not lose her faith in Krishna. On the other hand, we go to the 6th canto of Bhagavatam, we find Kritadyuti. Kritadyuti was the wife of Chitraketu Maharaj. They had one son. After a long, long anticipation, they had one son by the mercy of Angira Rishi. So Chitraketu Maharaj had 1 crore wives. Karodpati. He had 1 crore wives and only one wife gave birth to a son. The remaining 99,99,999 wives, they became envious of this first wife. And they were also upset with their husband. He's spending all the time with the first wife only because she gave birth to the child. He's neglecting us. They could have been little patient. And of course, Chitraketu also is at fault. He became overexcited. That's what? Tolerate happiness in distress. That's why we have to tolerate happiness also, not only tolerating distress. Tolerate happiness. He could not tolerate happiness. He became so excited, so elated, that he spent all his time with Kritadyuti and her newborn son and neglected remaining wives. 1 crore minus 1 wives. So they became very upset. They poisoned the child and killed the child. Then Kritadyati started lamenting. What kind of God you are? You are behaving like inexperienced child. How can a child die during the lifetime of his father? Father is born first, father should die first, then child should die. Father is still alive, living, and the child died. What kind of creative laws? Why did you create these emotional bondings between living beings, and why are you separating them? I think you are an inexperienced God. Your activities are unreasonable, illogical, insensitive. So she started blaming the Lord. Where is Uttara and where is Kritadyati? Uttara did not lose trust in Krishna, lose her faith in Krishna, although she lost her husband. But Kritadyati lost her faith in Krishna and even blamed the Lord because she lost her son. Reversals come in the lives of mature devotees also, ordinary neophyte devotees also, and those who are not devotees yet also. But the way they respond to reversals is different. A mature devotee responds to a reversal in a very mature way, devotional way, without doubting Krishna's intentions or integrity. That's the maturity of devotees. So Pandavas, how many reversals? And as soon as Krishna protected Parikshit Maharaj, Kunti Mata came in front and she started offering her prayers, profound prayers. She said that, "Oh Krishna, you are more merciful towards me than even Devaki. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha." Oh Krishna, oh Vasudeva, you are Devaki Nandan, but you are more merciful to Kunti more than Devaki. Why? You did not protect Devaki's 6 sons. You allowed them to die. But you protected my 5 sons. You never allowed them to die, although they are subjected to so many miseries. Why? Krishna did not protect his own mother's sons, his elder brothers. And he is protecting his aunt's sons. What kind of justice is this? Primarily, a son is supposed to serve the mother, not aunt. But he is serving aunt and spending more time with his nephews or cousins or Pandavas more than his own brothers. They died. What is this calculation? If Krishna is all capable, omnipotent, he could have protected his elder brothers. He could not have only one elder brother, Balaram. He could have had 6 more brothers. But Krishna did not do that. Kunti Mata says, Devaki had her husband Vasudeva. Because Vasudeva was there, she had opportunity to get more children, even if they die. Therefore, you did not protect. But I lost my husband, so I don't have opportunity to get more children. So you protected my kids. This is one little logic Prabhupada gives. So Prabhupada says, whoever is that devotee who is more desperate, more in need, Krishna will give them more attention. And when a child is, when a devotee is less desperate or little, fine, they can handle things on their own, the Lord will not give so much of attention to them. Attention means he gives, but he may not be able, he may not prefer to protect them from certain trivial calamities. Just like when the child is too young, the mother has 2 kids. One is 10-year-old, one is 3-year-old, for example. Naturally, 3-year-old kid gets more attention than the 10-year-old kid, right? Like that, the Lord also is more inclined to protecting those who are more dependent, more desperate. So Kunti Maharani said, Vipadaha Sant, and before that, she said, Vishan Mahagneha Purusha Darshanat Asat Sabhaya Vanavasa Krichrata Mridhe Mridheneka Maharathastrato Draunyastratascha Hare Bhirakshita Vishan Mahagneha Purusha Darshanat. My son Bhima was poisoned, Visha. Mahagnehe, our house was set on fire. Purushada Darshanat. We also had to counteract this man-eating demons like Hidimbasur and Bakasur. Krishna, you protected us from all these calamities. Asatsabhaya, you protected my daughter-in-law Draupadi from that Asatsabha. Vanavasa Krichritaha, you protected us from all the difficulties in Vanavas in so many ways. Mridhe aneka maharathastrato. During the Kurukshetra battle, so many Maharathis were showering Arjuna with their arrows, but he protected Arjuna from all these calamities. Draunyastratascha smaharebhi rakshita. And now Drauni, son of Drona, Ashwathama, released the Brahmastra and you protected Parikshit Maharaj from the Brahmastra. How many times you protected Krishna? We are so grateful. But Kunti Mata is not being specifically grateful for the protection that she received from calamities, but she is grateful for the darshan, the opportunity of meeting Krishna. That is more exciting. Protecting calamity is not the thing. Kunti Maharani is not an Artha Bhakta, by the way. Artha Bhakta means they come to the Lord when there is arti, when there is distress. They are relief seekers. Mandir gaya to shanti milta hai. Let me go to temple, I'll get some relief, I'll relax. No devotion or no understanding of the Lord's Tattva. This temple is very peaceful. I will just go and sit there for a moment. Right? Mind is so turbulent. So many reversals in life. So some people are relief seekers. They are not service seekers. Devotees are service seekers. So, Draunyastratascha harebhi rakshitaha. Kunti Maharani is not a relief seeker, by the way. She is not thanking Krishna for saving her from different kinds of reversals. She is thanking Krishna for making himself visible to her. That's why she, in the next sloka says, she says, Vipadaha santutaha shasvat tatra jagadguru bhavato darshanam yasyat apunar bhavadarshanam. Let all the calamities come again. Let my son be poisoned again. Let our house be set on fire again. Let my daughter-in-law be dishonored again, insulted again. Not literally, but she says, I don't mind. These calamities can come again and again, no problem. Let us be attacked by man-eating demons like Hidimbasur and Bakasur again. Vipadaha santutaha shashvat. Let calamities come again and again. If at all she is wanting to avoid calamities, why would she pray that let calamities come again? Because calamity is not a calamity for a devotee. Calamity for a devotee is an opportunity to increase their connection with Krishna, to increase their prayerful attitude towards Krishna, to increase their sense of dependence on Krishna. That is calamity for a devotee. Calamity's definition changes. Misery's definition changes in the case of a devotee. Devotee uses that misery as an opportunity, as a bridge to connect with Krishna. Krishna, you're there? I'm here? Fine. Misery is there. Let me connect to you. And also Kunti Maharani is kind of hinting or indicating that generally in this material world, people remember God or take shelter of God only when there is calamity. When there is a materially prosperous or comfortable situation, they don't tend to take shelter of the Lord. They tend to get deviated. But devotees are not like that. Pure devotees take shelter of the Lord either in happiness or distress. Because happiness and distress on a material plane are of no relevance to a devotee. Taking shelter of Krishna, Narayana parasarve nakutaschana bibhyati swarga apavarga narakeshu api tulyartha darshinaha. Tulya, everything is same. Samatvam yoga uchyati. Therefore, Kunti Maharani says, Vipadaha santutaha shashvat tatra jagadguru. Let these calamities come again and again. Doesn't matter. Bhavato darshanam yasyat. We get your darshan. Apunar bhava darshanam. Then we don't have to take darshan of this material world which is filled with happiness and distress, or birth and death. We don't want. Birth gives happiness. When a child is born, parents are happy. All the family members are happy. But when somebody dies, people experience distress. But this happiness and distress or birth and death don't exist in the spiritual world. And when someone is in spiritual consciousness, They are not affected by this birth and death or happiness or distress. Darshanam. We get your darshan, Krishna. That is sufficient for us. Bhavato darshanam yasyat apunar bhava darshanam. The word darshan has multiple meanings. One darshan is, take darshan of Radha Shyam Sundar. It's a devotional sight. Another darshan is understanding the finer nuances of philosophy. One meaning of darshan is devotional sight. Another meaning is philosophical insight. Kunti Mata, while aspiring for this devotional sight or darshan of Krishna, she gave us a very important philosophical insight. What is that? Calamity is not a calamity for a devotee. Calamity is an opportunity to intensify one's connection with Krishna. So this is Kunti Mata, how she dealt with reversals in life. We saw Uttara, we saw that little boy, son of maid servant, Narada Muni in his past life. We are going canto-wise, it seems. I didn't plan to speak all this, but somehow Krishna is orchestrating the discussion in this direction. So 6th chapter, 7th, 8th, 9th chapter, in the first canto, we see Bhishma. When Kunti Maharani completed her prayers, Krishna wanted to depart. He wanted to go to Dwaraka, but he could not go. You know why? Yudhishthira Maharaj came. He was crying. He came to Krishna and said that I am so sinful, Krishna. You are sinful. You are Dharmaraj. How can you be sinful? You can never do anything against Dharma. No, I am sinful. Because of me, just for the sake of making me the king of Hastinapur, hundreds and thousands of soldiers have to die on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. I am the cause of their death. So I am sinful. Krishna tried to console him by giving philosophical insight. He failed. Krishna failed. Krishna failed to console Yudhishthira Maharaj. The speaker of Bhagavad Gita, the speaker of Uddhava Gita, Krishnam Vandya Jagadgurum, he failed in consoling or counseling Yudhishthira Maharaj. He was still lamenting. Vyasadeva failed, the author of Shrimat Bhagavatam, the author of all the Vedas and Puranas and Mahabharata and Upanishads, he failed to console Yudhishthira Maharaj. Dhaumya failed. When Krishna and Vyasadeva failed, you need not take others' names also. Everybody failed. Why they failed? Krishna wanted to give the credit of counseling Yudhishthira Maharaj to Bhishma Dev. Bhishma. So Bhishma was lying on the deathbed with every inch of his body pierced by arrows of Arjuna. So Bhishma was lying on the deathbed, and Krishna took all the Pandavas to Bhishma so that Bhishma could give that philosophical counseling to the Pandavas, to Yudhishthira Maharaj specifically. So Bhishma saw them and he said, Aho kashtam aho nyayam yadyuyam dharma nandanam Jivitam narhatah klishtam vipra dharmachyutashrayah. Aho kashtam, aho anyayam. How many? Kashtam means difficulty, reversals. Anyayam means injustices. How many injustices you have faced? How many difficulties you have faced? Difficulty may be digestible many times, but injustice is very difficult to digest. Right? You get some cold or fever or even COVID or some other health problem, it's a difficulty, definitely. You have some financial problem, it's a difficulty. But still you can be little more composed while addressing the difficulty. But if it is injustice, another person is involved. He did injustice to me, he attacked me, he cheated me, he showed partiality. So when there is injustice, a conditioned soul's mind just cannot keep quiet but blame the person who has done the injustice. When somebody gets COVID virus, it's a difficulty. Whom will they blame? They can't blame anything, anybody. But if somebody has done injustice, someone has cheated and taken away all the property, you feel very devastated, right? In the lives of Pandavas, they not only experienced a kashtam, they also experienced anyayam. Not only difficulties or reversals, they also faced injustices. Injustice means a deliberate difficulty caused by someone intentionally, right? That's deliberate. Other difficulties are normal difficulties. But in injustice means a difficulty specifically and deliberately caused by somebody who is envious of you. Pandavas faced both. Aho kashtam, aho anyayam. So many reversals. Yadyuyam dharmanandana. You are dharmanandana. You are the son of dharma. Even son of dharma is not spared in this world. Please understand. We can never have an easygoing life. Life can never be like a bed of roses. Even son of dharma, Dharmanandana also has to face difficulties. Yadyuyam dharmanandana. Jivitam narhatah klishtam. Amidst all these reversals, it's very difficult to survive. You could not have survived. No one else could have survived except you. But why did you survive? How did you survive? Answer is simple. Vipra dharma achyut ashrayaha. Vipra, take shelter of devotees. Dharma, take shelter of the process of bhakti. Achyuta, take shelter of Krishna. Vipra dharma achyuta ashrayaha. Take shelter of these three. Bhakti, Bhakta and Bhagavan. Take shelter of these three B's. Right? Not the B's, not that B. Bhagavan, Bhakti and Bhakta. Then we will be able to deal with all calamities and reversals. That's how Pandavas dealt with it. And that's what Bhishma is glorifying them for. Further, he said, why at all you experienced all these calamities? Let's see the reason. How you dealt with it is clear, by taking shelter of Bhakti, Bhagavan and Bhagavatam. But why at all you had to face difficulties? He said, Sarvam kala kritam manye bhavatam chayadapriyam sapalo yadvashe loko vayor iva ghanavalihi. Sarvam kala kritam manye. Everything is done by time factor. Bhavatam chayadapriyam. Apriyam means unpleasant circumstances. All the unpleasant situations in your life are caused by kala. Kala means time. Sarvam kala kritam manye. Bhavatam cha yad apriyam. Apriya. All these unpleasant situations in your life are caused by kala, time factor. Sapalo yad vashe loko gvayoriva ghanavalihi. All the planets are under the control of time. Sapalo. Not only planets, even their rulers are also under the control of time. Vayoriva ghanavali. Just like a ghanavali, means groups of clouds have no independence to move anywhere. These groups of clouds, they must move according to the movements of the wind. Similarly, all living entities in this world must conduct themselves according to the movements of time. Somebody is getting old. Time is passing. They are entering 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. There are wrinkles on the face. Hairs become white. So many difficulties. Can they stop? Can they stop aging? Not possible. Even if you just put cosmetics or some cream or something on the face, 1 inch thick, still you cannot stop old age. Right? So we may hide the wrinkles on the face, we may hide old age, we may hide the whiteness of hair with some black color, but we cannot hide age. The time comes where we have to leave the body, we have to leave the body. As simple as that. So time is controlling. So time is the cause of all the reversals, he said. This is true in everybody's case, but not true in Pandava's case. Then what Time cannot be the cause. What else can be the cause? Prarabdha karma cannot be the cause. They are pure devotees. Kala cannot be the cause. They are pure devotees. Then, next shloka. He said, I think it's the 15th shloka. Yatra dharma suto raja gada panirvrkodaraha Krishnostrigandivam chapam suhrut Krishna tato vipad Yatra dharma suto raja. The place where Dharma Sutta, Yudhishthira Maharaj is staying there. Gadapanir Vrkodaraha. Vrkodar is there. Krishnostri Gandivam Chapam. Krishna is personally there. This Krishna is Arjuna. Arjuna is personally there with his Gandiva. And on top of it, Suhrut Krishna. Still, they have the greatest well-wisher. Krishna is their dearest friend, eternal companion. Tato Vipat. Still there are reversals. There are reversals in the lives of Pandavas, despite they themselves being spiritually potent and materially well equipped with all weapons and military knowledge. And on top of it, Krishna is there as personal well-wisher. Still they experience reversals. If we experience reversals, is it so big? Is it so significant? What is our reversal in comparison to the reversals experienced by the Pandavas, despite being very close companions of Krishna? Darshana sparsha samlapa shayanasana bhojanaihi. The Pandavas were having 6 loving exchanges with Krishna. While we have 6 loving exchanges with other devotees, they are having 6 loving exchanges with Krishna. Still, tato vipat. So what's the solution? What is the reason why they are experiencing calamities? Answer is, Tasmadidam Daivatantram. All this is orchestrated by Daiva, Krishna. Krishna has personally caused difficulties in the lives of these devotees. Why? How can Krishna cause difficulties in the lives of pure devotees? We understand, if they are materialistic people, they suffer because of karma. If they are struggling sadhakas, still they also suffer because of their anarthas or aparadhas. But pure devotees, they don't have anarthas, they don't have aparadhas, they don't have karma, still they suffer. Why they suffer? Krishna is causing suffering. Why Krishna causes suffering to the pure devotees? Like Kunti, Maharani, Pandavas, Draupadi, Uttara, Parikshit Maharaj. Why? The answer is that the Lord wants to experience rasa. Ras. What is this rasa? New rasa. We know Shantarasa, Dasharasa, Amras, we know all this ras. But what is this different rasa of keeping devotees in calamities? What kind of rasa is this? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains in the 10th canto purports. He says, when you have a series of happy moments, life becomes monotonous. When there is some distressful moment, life becomes exciting. Right? Isn't it? When you eat 10 sweets in a row, you eat sompapadi, you eat kaja, you eat fruit custard, you eat rasgulla, you eat gulab jamun, you eat chakra pongal, South Indian sweet, you eat rabdi, then somebody gives you. Can you please take this, tell me some other sweet's name? Jalebi. So, will you relish that jalebi after eating half dozen sweets? No. If somebody gives mirchi bhaji at that time, then you will relish it. After eating so many sweets, you kuch to namkeen de do. Or you just give some spicy item or some salty item, then it's balanced. Then after that you take some sweet, or you took that mirchi bhaji and you have bitten it. Then nayanam galadhashru dharaya vadanam gadgadarudhaya gira. You're having tears in your eyes because you could not tolerate that spice. Then somebody gives you that jalebi, right? Then you can relish it better. So, if there is only happy moments, sequence of happy moments, life becomes monotonous. If there is some distress also here and there, life becomes exciting. So pure devotees experience happiness in union with Krishna, and pure devotees experience distress in separation from Krishna. Therefore, in the pure devotee's life, there is happiness, there is distress. Happiness is union with Krishna, distress is separation from Krishna. And that separation from Krishna also is a source of spiritual bliss only. On the material plane, distress is distress, happiness is also distress. On the spiritual plane, happiness is happiness, distress is also happiness. Right? Therefore, even when devotees, pure devotees are facing difficulties or reversals or injustices, that's a source of bliss for them. Because in such a situation, their loving absorption in Krishna will be more intensified and Krishna will personally come and protect them. That's wonderful. The Lord will keep devotees in suffering. For example, in the beginning of 10th canto, Bhumata took the form of a Gomata and came to Brahma, I am distressful. Then Brahma took her to the Lord and said, my dear Lord, Gomata is in distress, Bhumata is in distress. So you should do something. Then the Lord said, I will come in my original form as Krishna and relieve her from all sufferings. Why the Lord has to create that suffering for Bhumata? She is a pure devotee. Why at all she has to be overburdened by so many military kings? Because the Lord created that situation. Why Kali Yuga has to come? Why can't there be Satya Yuga all the while? Hare Krishna. Why in your menu some spicy items has to be there? Why can't there be only sweets? No other items. So, the Lord creates a situation of distress for a devotee. Nothing happens without Lord's sanction. And the Lord Himself takes an incarnation and relieves Mother Earth from that suffering. In such a situation, Mother Earth's love for Krishna will increase. Right? So this is how the Lord experiences loving exchanges with His devotees, by creating situations of distresses sometimes. And devotees don't misunderstand Krishna, they're happy. So when the Lord appears as an incarnation and does some pastimes on her surface, Mother Earth is very happy. It's worth to carry the burden of so many sinful souls just so that Krishna can appear as an incarnation and walk on my surface. Mother Earth thinks like that. To give her that experience, sometimes the Lord puts her into troubles. So this is important. Their feelings will come out. Kavasa heta viraham purushottamasya premavaloka ruchirasmita valgu jalpaihi Sthiryam samanamaharan madhumaninam romotsavo mamayadangri vitankitaya. After Krishna's departure, Mother Earth is saying, Kavasa heta viraham purushottamasya. Who can tolerate the pangs of separation from Purushottama Krishna? Premavaloka, by his loving glances, Ruchirasmita, with his pleasing smiles, Valgujalpaihi, by his hearty appeals and pleasant conversations, Sthiryam samanamaharan madhumaninam. He is stealing the hearts of his sweethearts like Satyabhama. Romotsavo mamayadangri vitankitaya. When the Lord is performing these kinds of beautiful pastimes, Romotsavo, all my hairs are standing on end. What are the hairs of Mother Earth? All the creepers and plants and grasses. She was lush green. She was prosperous. She was flourishing in the situation of when Krishna was there on her surface. So like that she was experiencing so much of joy in Krishna's presence, and she was also experiencing another kind of joy in separation from Krishna. While she is experiencing the bliss of Krishna's presence on the planet, she's also, after Krishna's disappearance, she's also experiencing the bliss of remembering Krishna and all the pastimes of Krishna. So, when a devotee experiences distress, the distress is also source of happiness for the devotee. So, a situation of reversal will give us more inspiration to chant the holy names of Krishna, to sing the glories of Krishna. Kulashekar Alvar in Mukundamala Stotra, he says, He amartya paramam hitam shrunutavo vakshyami sankshepatah samsararnava mapadurmi bahulam samyak pravishya sthitah nanagnanavapasya chetasinabo narayanayetyabum mantram sapranavam pranama sahitam pravartayedham muhu. He Martya paramam hitam shrunutavo. Oh Martya, please hear this greatest welfare, greatest advice that I am giving for your welfare. Paramam hitam shrunutavo. Vakshyami sankshepatah. I will describe in brief. What is that advice that he is giving? Please understand your situation, that you are tossed by the waves of this ocean of material existence. And you are thinking of getting out of this material existence on your own? No, not possible. Nanagnanamapasya chetasinabo narayanayetyabum. Give up all your concocted ways of coming out of this material existence. None of them will work, I assure you. And what should I do then? Namo Narayana. Chant the holy names of Narayana. Mantram sapranavam pranama sahitam pravartayedham muhu. So chant this mantra along with pranava omkara and offer obeisances to Krishna. That will relieve you from all sufferings. So calamities in this world give us an opportunity and inspiration to take shelter of the holy names of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And that holy name of Krishna will destroy all the enemies and all the difficulties. Shatruchhedaika mantram sakalamupanishadvakya sampujya mantram samsarochheda mantram samuchita tamasaha sangha niryana mantram sarvaishwaryaika mantram vyasana bhujaga sandashta santrana mantram jihve Sri Krishna mantram japa japa satatam janma sabhalya mantram Shatruchhedaika mantram. This Sri Krishna mantra can destroy all our enemies of lust, envy, pride, greed, anger. Sakalam Upanishadvakya sampujya mantram. All the Upanishads are glorifying this mantra. They are worshipping this mantra. Basically, they are recommending Krishna mantra. Samsarochheda mantram. All the difficulties in this material existence are destroyed by taking shelter of Krishna mantra. Samuchita tamasaha sangha niryana mantram. We will develop detachment. We will retire from all attachments in this material world by chanting Krishna mantra. Samuchita tamasaha sangha niryana mantram sarvaishwaryaika mantram. This mantram, Krishna mantra, will give us all Aishwaryas, and the greatest Aishwarya is love for Krishna. Sarvaishwaryaika mantram vyasana bhujaga sandashta santrana mantram. Vyasana bhujaga, all kinds of bad habits and poor mentalities that we have, they are like snakes biting us. Just like sometimes a mantra can subdue the snakes, control the snakes, Krishna mantra can control the snakes of our material desires, bad habits, poor mentalities. Vyasana bhujaga sandashta santrana mantram jihve Sri Krishna mantram. With your tongue, chant Krishna mantra. Japa japa satatam janma sabhalya mantram. Japa japa satatam, constantly chant the holy names. Janma Safalya Mantram. Your life will become successful. Calamities give us opportunities to take shelter of Krishna's holy name with more intensity, with more absorption, with more dependence, in a state of helplessness. It's good. It's good to chant the holy names with desperation. And if calamity is enabling us to do so, welcome. This is the mood of a devotee. And there are many more such stories, many more such perspectives. I don't know, when should I stop, Prabhu? 7:40 now. Questions. We'll conclude here. Part 2 is there. It can have part 3 also, part 4 also, part 10 also. I hardly recollected a couple of pastimes from the first canto. First canto I did not even finish half. There are 11 and a half cantos now.